This hour is brought to you by Jeremy Temple Law Office of Bloomington. Personal injury, criminal, business, whatever you need, Jeremy Temple Law Office will get you taken care of.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Well, come on and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat with Corey O'Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, just like Justin Smith putting his name into the draft. We'll talk about that today. Todd's off today, doctor's appointments, and we have got a great show, though. The governor, Kirk Haston, is going to join us. Former Indiana basketball player Kirk Haston, state representative down in Tennessee, will join us later in the program. Taylor Lehman from thehoosier.com will join us. Kevin Brockway, also from CNHI Papers, is going to be on, as well as we'll be talking about Justin Smith as he has entered his name into the draft. Not a total surprise, but just a little surprise on the timing of when that went out. So, and that's about the only surprise to that. We've got other things to talk about as well. Calipari talks about the G League, which kind of cracks me up. But Kevin Brockway joins us now. Kevin, how are you doing, man?
Good.
Justin Smith enters his name into the draft, Indiana basketball player, but not a shock, but just a little surprising on the timing is all.
Yeah, well, I think that, certainly the deadline was Sunday, but the names, I guess, are filtering out. But with regards to Justin, I think we see the athletic ability we always have in watching him play. So maybe that translates to the next level in workouts if there is a workout. But the skills, I mean, this is a guy that he's going to have to show, if he has any chance at the next level, whether he can shoot, whether he can finish around the basket, he can defend. I mean, I think those are all kind of big issues for him going forward as he tries to, prove himself at the next level.
Yeah, text into the show from Alan Hughes down at Birdseye. Morning, guys. Okay, I'm taking the bait. Smith in the draft. I love the kid, love his abilities. I hope what the NBA guys tell him open his eyes and we get 100% every game this year, because they're not going to tell him he's going to go high enough. He will have to stay at IU, and Archie could not seem to get his eyes open. So let's make this as a reality check, basically. But I think there's some truth to that. Thanks for the text, Alan. I think there's some truth to that. I mean, there's nobody. Todd talks about it all the time. There's just nobody that has the physical capabilities that Justin Smith does, and we know that he's a specimen, but he's just not showing the things that I think that the guys are going to need to see at the NBA level.
Yeah, no question. And I think that that's something that they'll probably be told by scouts. Is just work on the skill set. Get that area of his game refined. And, he's a guy that, I mean, let's be honest, Jim, count the number of transition layups that were missed or, ones that where he was forced, to be an NBA, to be an NBA level player, you've got to make those, a lot more consistently.
Well, and the funny thing is right now we're watching the 10-part documentary on Michael Jordan. I had to sneeze there. Ooh, had to do it again. Excuse me. Oh, man. Anyway, we're watching The Last Dance. And one of the big names, of course, in that is Dennis Rodman. And what he's known for, more than anything else, is his motor. Just his motor made him an NBA star. And I think that that's something that if Justin Smith could add to his game, my God, there's no telling what his ceiling would be.
Yeah, no question. And let's put it this way, last year when he was a 4, he was a little undersized at 6'7", maybe even to the Big Ten level. But this year he played the 3, he played the small forward spot. You would think a guy like that should be able to get more rebounds. Now, if you remember the Penn State game at home, he really affected the game on the boards. And that was a big key in Indiana picking up a pretty good late season win against the Penn State team that was ranked at the time. But you didn't see him really do that consistently enough, at least for my level. Like a guy that's 6'7", playing in a league where you're playing a lot of 3-guard lineups, you should be getting, I think, 7 to 10 rebounds every night. And I don't know why we didn't see that from him, particularly with his size and athleticism. He had that kind of advantage. And that's another area of his game too, Jim. I think that, toughness, physical toughness, mental toughness, that's an area too where you'd like to see some growth. And again, maybe this is a situation where you put your name in the draft, you get feedback from NBA scouts, talent evaluators. Maybe, you say to yourself, hey, look, these are things that I have to work on. You come back as a senior and you take it to heart.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It was a little surprising that Trayce Jackson-Davis did not put his name in the draft, only to get that information. But, of course, he knows he's going to be around another year. But still, I'd have thought just for the information input. But his dad played in the NBA. I mean, he doesn't have to go far to get the recommendation. So maybe that has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, and, going through the workout process or going through the interview process, it's a time-consuming process. So maybe Trayce just felt like, hey, look, I know I'm coming back. Let me just, go, let me just focus on what I need to focus on. We're all in kind of an unsure time, obviously, with the pandemic as to when, games are going to come back. But I think that, he's probably taking this time to, work on his game, on his own skill set, and turn his focus on coming back to Indiana as a sophomore. And really, he's in position. I mean, I talked to an NBA scout where he says, look, the kid can dominate the Big Ten next year. Come back, work on the skill set, get the jumper, get the offhand going, because that's a big issue right now with him. He's kind of all left. And, he'll really improve his stock as a sophomore. You could see maybe a Jalen Smith comparison, of Maryland, who came back his sophomore year, added that, three-pointer to his offensive arsenal. And now you're looking at him, and he's a surefire first-round pick.
And we don't know what the Big Ten is going to look like next year. We won't know until this draft is complete. But with certainty, it's going to look very different, I think. And I think Indiana is going to be set in a lot better position next season than they were this past season.
Yeah, what if Dosumnu and Kofi Coburn both go in the draft for Illinois? All of a sudden, that hurts their talent level immensely. Now, they could have some guys coming in, but you just don't know. It's a crapshoot. Whenever freshmen come in or transfers come in, you don't know how they're going to do until they're there. With Dosumnu and Coburn in Illinois, you had two proven commodities. I think they'll take a fall. I think Penn State losing Lamar Stevens, they'll probably, take a little dip in the standings. So that opens up an opportunity for a team like Indiana to move up. And they better take advantage of it. Rutgers is a team that I think has a lot of its players coming back. I think that they'll, build off what they did this season. But you could see a lot of teams, potentially take a step back, and that could open the door for Indiana to be that, top 5, top 6 team in the Big Ten, which in a conference that strong would make you, probably a top 25 team for most of the season.
Indiana looking to have a really solid recruiting class coming in because you can pretty much add Christian Lander to that. I mean, nothing official has been made, but in every conversation I've had with his dad, Christian's on par to reclassify, and I would be shocked if that doesn't happen. So I'm going forward thinking that Christian Lander is a part of this 2020 class coming in with Anthony Leal and Trey Galloway and Jordan Geronimo. A nice class for definitely some scoring coming in for Archie Miller.
Yeah, and with Lander, certainly. What you see is, I think, a dynamic guard, which this roster lacks. Now, did Devontae Green have some moments last year? He did have some games where he filled it up. They were kind of few and far between, but he did have a few of those. Florida State, Iowa, two really important wins last season. But he wasn't a guy you could count on every night. Lander strikes me as the kind of kid that you could count on every night, and he's a 5-star, and he's a guy that's really fast and dynamic with the ball in his hands. And I think his ability to, get the ball up the court, to penetrate, to drive and dish. That's going to set up a lot and really improve this Indiana offense. I think. I just see him as a guy that really has the potential. If he has his head on straight and works hard, I think he's a kid that has a chance to really open things up to that Indiana offense.
I agree. He's something that they don't have right now. And although they've got quality players in Rob Finney and Al Durham, they just did not have that guy that could get to the rim. Even when Devontae, that was not his forte. There's nobody there that can really get to the rim with effectiveness. I mean, you had Romeo here, and he kind of spoiled him on that. That was a specialty of his, but they missed that, and they don't have that to kick out. And, of course, they don't have the shooters to do that right now anyway. But maybe all this comes together with that, with Christian Lander, with some guys that can shoot. This offense could change immensely with the right guy, and maybe Christian Lander is that one piece that they're missing.
Yeah, he's a guy, he could get to the rim, not just get to the rim and score, but get to the rim and create, which I think, will help guys like Trayce Jackson-Davis, the dump-off passes, which I think we're lacking in this offense, certainly last season. Creating a lot of easier shots. Maybe if Justin Smith comes back, you'd see that too, because he's athletic enough around the rim where he could get some, putbacks and dunks as well. So, things like that, I think that's what Lander provides, can potentially provide for this offense in terms of being, a dynamic guy that's got a quick first step that's going to be able to break down the defense a little bit.
Also, let's see, you've got another 5-star prospect, the former UCLA commit, heading to the G League. Or that's not the G League. I think that's a big confusion. They're not really heading to the G League. The NBA these guys are going. They're kind of being sequestered on their own, like the Mamba Academy, so to speak. This is not really the G League. These guys are not being. They're not expected to be a part of the G League. They may play a game or two, but these guys are not for the G League, and I think that's confusing some people. But I think that this is no different than when the one and done rule has changed. It doesn't matter. Only a select few of these guys are going to get these offers. So I'm fine with what's going on.
Yeah, they've kind of created a little a camp, right, with the Mamba Academy. And I think what was happening were a lot of these guys that weren't going into the G League out of high school playing against grown men, some of them were exposed. And let's be honest. They were kind of, shown that, it's riding the buses and playing in front of small crowds only to get knocked around by a 28, 29-year-old grown man when you're 18, 19 years old. It's not really appealing. And making like $30,000 or $40,000. They've upped the salaries. They've made it a developmental thing. I'll be curious to see where it goes. But I still think that there's so many players out there, Jim. I mean, I've been hearing all that. Pete Thamel and all these people this is a ruination of college basketball. Yada yada. I mean, come on. And we've seen so many guys. I've seen so many guys over the years in the SEC and in the Big Ten just come out of nowhere. A guy like Robert Williams at Texas A&M was like a 2-star. And 2 years later, he's, acrobatic dunks, dominating the league. Obi Toppin this year, the Naismith Player of the Year. There are plenty of players out there that, will go into college basketball and develop and grow. I mean, you could literally have growth spurts in college, as we saw with, as we've, seen some of the guys like Pippen and, Rodman, and certainly in Last Dance they portrayed that as well, where you have guys that they grow and develop during that time.
Kevin, let's take a quick break. Kirk Haston, a former Indiana Hoosier and next governor of Tennessee, is going to join us next. But we've got a lot to talk about here on Indiana Sports Beat. Kevin Brockway from CNH Papers is with us right now. But coming up next, Kirk Haston. Stay tuned. You're listening. The Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Back after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want winning milestone championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Dentistry and Sellers. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
By your side, girl, you really got me now. You got me so I can't sleep at
Welcome back
night.
to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, coming to you here on this Wednesday from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as Justin Smith has entered his name into the draft. We've talked about that. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers is sitting in with us today. As Todd's off, going to be joined by Kirk Haston here in a little bit, the governor. Going to join us, Kevin. But, that the NCAA is expected to make some kind of an announcement. I was reading off of Brett McMurphy's tweet, Kevin, that they're expected to pass these resolutions till to take effect next academic school year, I think, for the 21-22 school year. All right. So we're joined by Kevin for Kirk Haston, right? The governor. Kirk, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are y'all today?
Cannot complain, man. How are things down in Tennessee?
It just different. Trying to make the best of it. We're slowly reopening a few businesses this week, but mainly still a lot of staying at home and trying not to go too crazy. I think that my yard is about as mowed as it's going to get, and my garage is about as clean as it's going to get. So it's I'm anxious to do some other things.
If you've been living under a rock, of course, I effectively call Kirk Haston the governor. Of course, he is probably the next governor of Tennessee one day, but currently a representative down there taking care of his people. So he's one of the few people that we talk to that are actually on the front lines dealing with this stuff. That's got to be really difficult having to deal with the public, the constituency, because these are answers that none of us really have.
Yeah, and whatever decisions are made, it's any governor right now, it's just not a very enviable position. It's tough because whichever decisions you make, you're impacting so many people. If you're reopening businesses, it's great for our business owners and our economy, of course. But then you have a lot of the healthcare professionals that are questioning that decision and vice versa. So it's tough. We're trying to do it in some phases and try to be as smart about it as we can. But yeah, my days, I've already been talking with some people this morning that are wondering when our barbershops and salons are going to open up. And so it's been a lot of emails and calls, especially at the beginning of the week, and then it kind of starts dying down by Thursday or Friday, and then it gears back up at the beginning of the next week.
Hey, Kirk, Kevin Brockway. Indiana, I think they announced that they're going to start to do random testing around the state. What is the test plan for Tennessee, right now, that you know of? Well,
Governor Lee announced that they're going to start ramping up testing, with this reopening, and I think that he's stated in one of his last press conferences that in the next couple of weeks they're trying to get up to around 100 to 200,000. I think it was 200,000 new tests done to see where we're at. And we've set up a lot of free testing sites in the state. There's one Sunday in a county adjacent to mine, and they're trying to space the free testing sites out where you're getting a really good sample of the demographic, and just really staying on top of the trends, because it looks like that what we're looking for is there's two big answers in all this, and that's a vaccine or herd immunity. And in the meantime, we've got to have some pretty safe measures in there to make sure that our hospitals aren't inundated with cases. So it's just something like I've never seen before. I'm watching more daytime television than I think that I ever have in my entire life. And if I can go on one small game show tangent, I didn't know this was going to come out of me, but all right, it's really just a sign that how long you've been in quarantine when you're upset your DVR forgot to record Deal or No Deal on the Game Show Network, because from 10 years ago, and also Price is Right. This has got to eliminate the overbidding thing. I'm so tired of the person that bids the $1 over the last person and makes them mad. I mean, if the item is $1,000 and I bid 1,001 and Sam next to me bids 501, I should win. I don't care. If I'm $1 off, I don't care. But anyhow,
I'll dumb rule. It is. It's a dumb rule. I've always thought that. It's a stupid rule.
Just ruins the entire bidding process, and it's gonna lead to a fist fight on contestant row, and then something will finally get done. But I'm telling you, Drew Carey needs to be proactive, and they need to get that taken care of right now. And that's I'll leave it at that.
So Drew Carey is still hosting, huh? I remember the Bob Barker days and Barker's Beauties, and I think Bob Barker's still alive, actually, isn't he? Right? He's in his 90s or something.
Yes, I believe that's right. From Happy Gilmore fame, yes.
Oh yeah, he was great in Happy Gilmore, wasn't he?
Greatness, but yeah, it's better than the mountain climber. What's the little mountain climber guy? Whichever the one that. But I've not seen
the game. I just noticed the game that's like that's the only thing. I don't know what it's called, but that's the only thing that comes to my mind when I hear that game show.
Yes.
Kevin, as you see that the talents of Kirk Haston are that they know no bounds.
Yeah, my lovely singing voice.
Well, actually, ironically, Kirk, 2 years ago, this would be Derby week. In a normal circumstance, and Kirk has been with us coming on for a long time. We were so grateful for him. But I think it was 2 years ago on the Friday of Derby week, we did something where we had all the IU people we could get a hold of pick their own Derby horse, and Kirk wanted to make his own up, and I'm like, well, yeah, sure. And then he named his own horse, and I'm like, well, how would that race go? And he did the call of his own race. Jake, do you have that? By chance, he calls his own race.
No.
I mean, the talent is unbelievable.
Well, the Derby favorite is, of course, Who Smelt It and Dealt It. But this is, I think it's because of his. This heart has such a big heart, and it's going to be it's not going to be the favorite, but it'll be one that gets a lot of action. His Hearted, Hearted, and we're just going to really pull for him down the stretch. So we'll see how this goes.
How do you think it's going to turn out?
Well, I think it's going to go something a little like this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a beautiful day at the Derby. We're getting ready to get set, and they're off. Well, Hoof-Hearted is really sticking it up out of the gate, but hopefully they'll put out down the stretch. Man, I really am disappointed. Hoof-Hearted is pulling out. It's going past Charmin. Hoof-Hearted is coming down the stretch. Hoof-Hearted is coming around on Who Smelt They Dealt It. Hoof-Hearted. It is unbelievable. These people are throwing.
The comedy level alone is great, but the fact that you called that race, even though it was funny as heck, you called that race actually like you could call a thoroughbred race.
Oh me, I'm glad that didn't get passed around too much during the election in Tennessee. That might have undercut my chances a couple years ago, but yeah, that when you called me and said that you needed a call for the Derby, and I thought, well, I could just give one of these horses that are in the Derby. I mean, everybody does that. What would it sound like if it was a little bit more lively? And so I remember a horse that was named that years ago. I don't know when I saw it. I think I was in college and I heard that was the name of a horse that was in a random race somewhere, and it just always stuck with me. But yeah, I appreciate you helping that live on.
It is probably the greatest moment we've ever had. Just the comedy. But when you run for governor, I'll make sure it gets buried. Don't worry.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, actually, my favorite horse call was the one where it was about the wife, my ex-wife, my current wife. There was two horses.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Those are great.
Unbelievable. Hey, there's so much change going on. We talked about, all the COVID-19 stuff that you're dealing with, we're dealing with. Then the NCAA itself, they just today, the Board of Governors come out expressing support for name, image, likeness, the athlete's ability to profit off of that. Great changes there, Kirk. Someone, of course, a former pro player and college player. What are your thoughts on how they are going to implement this and manage that?
Yeah, I'm glad that there's something that's being announced with some uniformity, because what you were having were a lot of states, including some laws that were going through our legislature. I think we had 3 or 4 bills that were brought forth this past year, and one of them had come through my education committee that I'm on. And what you were going to have is, if you let that continue, the states that did adopt making it legal was just going to create really an unfair recruiting platform, potentially nationwide. And so it was I think the states knew that they had to just kind of put pressure on the NCAA, and once they saw that states were starting to band together and some of them were starting to do this, and that movement was taking place, that they had to get out and do something pretty quickly. And I'm not always the biggest fan of some of the NCAA's decisions, and they take a long time to get there sometimes. But this will be a smart move.
One of the proposed changes is allowing actual boosters to be registered by the NCAA and sponsor athletes. How do you think that could create advantages though for certain schools, or how do you have that and keep recruiting, equitable among all the schools, because that different schools have different booster support.
Yeah, I guess I understand what they're doing there. That might be part of it that I could see getting changed or removed. But if it is kept in, I guess one of the things, the way that they're looking at it is, a lot of this stuff is going on already. You might as well legislate it. I know we come up with that a lot of times in different. I think one of the most common arguments right now when you deal with states that are talking about trying to do some sort of legalized gambling is, one of the arguments that people will bring forth is that, well, we might as well work to control it and maybe even and regulate it and make some additional money for the state, or make some additional money, I'm sure, somehow for the TAA or the NCAA by having some control over it. But it definitely could create some recruiting situations, but those recruiting situations are probably already in existence in the shadows.
Yeah, that's right. You're an SEC country. You know a thing or two about that.
No comment. No comment.
Oh man, I was reading a clip out of your book that the IU Press put up yesterday, Kirk, and there's just some stuff that amazes me. You still continue to learn, but the recruiting process for you was so interesting on how that went down with Tennessee, and it really makes you wonder how a guy like you got out of the state. But you figure that out after reading that stuff. But Vanderbilt, Tennessee, thought that they may have you, or you'd be heading there, but you end up in the Big Ten, which is the Big Ten was recruiting you pretty heavily. It looked like.
Yeah, I had a strange recruiting path for sure. Indiana was not the closest I got to being recruited. I think by Indiana was I walked past Coach Knott at the Memphis Steamboat Classic, which is a summer basketball camp. I walked right past him as I was walking into play. He was walking out of the gym. So that's how much on the radar I was at Indiana the summer before my senior year. But yeah, Ohio State, Michigan State, Purdue, I had to call Coach Katie, and tell him that I had chosen Coach Knott in Indiana over him, which was an interesting call. But yeah, I was originally wanting to just stay in the state, and Tennessee and Vanderbilt had both offered me scholarships. I was really wanting to go to Vanderbilt. And then the summer going into my senior year, Vanderbilt, pretty much, if not just right on the dot, just rescinded the offer and just was basically like, we're not interested anymore. And that was Van Bredikoff was the coach there at the time. And so and then Tennessee, they had different circumstances. They had just a lot of early commitments that had committed before me, and they just ran out of spots. And so Coach O'Neill at Tennessee at the time, Kevin O'Neill, contacted Coach Knott and said, "Hey, I think this kid would fit your system well, and you would like him. You need to come down and take a look." And it wasn't too long after that Coach Knott and his wife were flying down to Clifton, Tennessee, to watch a road game during our high school season.
Amazing. It was I just reading it, and it blew my mind on how, but it should never surprise me, because recruiting is always, if people knew all the backstories and the close misses in life, it's so funny. But I've got to hear, you got to tell us how that conversation with Gene Katie went when you told him you're going to Indiana instead of Purdue.
Well, they to Purdue's credit, they were on me quite a bit earlier, and had come down and see me, came down to a game, and they had offered a scholarship, and Indiana came in probably about probably 2 months later, actually. But once I had made the decision to go to Indiana, I'd always, a buddy of mine's basement, we'd go over and we'd hit a pool table and we'd play pool in there, and I had to get my, this is before, cell phones were really, in my area. We didn't even have cell tower forever. But anyhow, I had to, pull out the old calling card you used to keep in your wallet, and I told my buddies, I'm like, listen, I need the basement, and so they left the basement and went upstairs, and I was like, I got to make a phone call. And so I, get my calling card out and, call from his house and, get Coach Katie on the phone. And I said, Coach Katie, I'm, sorry, that I appreciate the offer and the time that y'all put in, but I just wanted to let you know personally that I've decided that I'm going to go to Indiana. And there was just kind of this pause on the other end, and Coach Katie, he goes, "That's fine, Kirk, but just know from this point on, I'm going to root like hell against you." And I said, well, I appreciate that. At least he was honest. And so, he probably somehow, when I was running for election, came down and registered as a Tennessee resident and voted against me or something. But anyhow, that was an interesting phone call.
That's hilarious. And he's, after the fact, he's such a funny guy. And I know back in the day, we all looked at him as, oh God, he's from Purdue, we hate him. He's actually a pretty cool, funny guy.
Yeah. He has a lot better personality than maybe what ever came through on television from a distance.
Have you talked to him anytime recently in the years that have passed?
I haven't, just kind of in passing, just back when we were playing, but not really any kind of substantial conversation. I sure haven't.
Well, man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us. Kevin Brockway, you got anything else for Kirk?
Well, yeah, I'm just curious about, your thoughts about Indiana's past season and Coach Knight returning to Assembly Hall last February before everything kind of shut down.
Yeah, that was I honestly just got goosebumps thinking back to it when you mentioned it. It was a really special moment for me and also honestly for my wife. The school was great and made sure they were like, bring your spouse, and they just treated all of the spouses just like royalty. I mean, took them out and sat them on the front row during the ceremony at half court, and it really meant a lot to both of us. But Coach Knight was great. He wanted to make sure that he talked to everybody beforehand and got there, I guess, probably an hour before the ceremony. And we had a small gathering of former players and our wives back in the back where we were able to visit and sit down with him and talk and take some pictures. And he wanted to make sure to get all of the wives together. And so we got a good big photo of just the spouses with him. And he told us, he gathered us all around. He goes, boys, people ask me all the time about coaching you guys, and I tell them that it was the greatest time of my life, and it was a great honor to be around this bunch of, a bunch of guys like this. And he said, I'm sure when everybody asks how I was, y'all say the same thing. And I said, well, there's some good self-awareness there that he probably is enjoying, but it was great, and it was long overdue, and I just think it was very cathartic for everybody. And I didn't know how he would react or his family, but when I saw his face while he was out there, and I saw his son Pat's face, and saw the emotion in them, it really was very emotional and just very special. And it was one of my top 2 or 3 favorite moments of all time, easily on a basketball court.
Yeah, the emotion that Bob Knight showed when he was actually on the floor, it's like the crowd triggered in him that competitive spirit. It just came to life.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the last, it would have been, I don't know what our last home victory would have been when I was playing, back in '99 for him, but. You think back, it was some home game, some Big Ten game in 1999 that, it was probably right after he yelled at me about playing poor defense, but we probably got the win after, I made a bad play on defense. But the last time that he was on that court and fans were reacting like that, and he felt that energy and felt that, reverberation and just that and just felt that court beneath his feet was, several years ago in 1999. So that was the first time since then that he's ever felt that, and it's just it's a very powerful feeling when you're standing on that court and you have those fans reacting and sounding like that in a game, much less when it's directed towards you as an individual. I couldn't even imagine what that would feel like. So it really. I don't think that he realized until the moment he got out there what that was going to feel like, and I think it really did hit him in a good spot.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I think it was just a touching thing for everybody that was there. You talk about getting goosebumps. It was just unbelievable. And as a player who was there at the end with Coach Knight, how important was it to you to see that moment for him?
Oh, it was incredible. It's something that we'd really been hoping and working towards. I think a lot of players that are much closer to him than me, like Quinn Buckner, had been really trying to make this happen and make sure that it was something that was done correctly, and that's why they really went to great lengths to try to make sure that it wasn't anything that, Coach, he only wanted to do it if it was surrounded by, if it was involving the honoring of a team that he was a part of. He didn't want it to be just about him. Of course, we all wanted it to be about him, and secretly that was kind of what we were wanting to do. But getting some guys on board and having Quinn, which was great, and Isaiah Thomas, which was incredible, and just he treated everybody great while he was there as well. To have them come back and just to make sure that Coach Knight felt comfortable meant a lot, and I just it just, I don't know, it was definitely a storybook day. And I think it would have been 2000 if the 99-2000 season. So it probably would have been in 2000 would have been his last home date. Now that I've actually thought about it, but anyhow.
Right. And you mentioned Isaiah Thomas. Right now we're all enthralled by The Last Dance. Kind of takes you back. You were actually playing then, I think, at that time. Have you been watching that, enjoying that?
Oh yeah, I've it's been appointment viewing. Me and my friends have a couple of text message threads talking about it as we watch it, and yeah, I came in. I went into the league in 2001, so I did. Jordan came back and played with the Wizards while I was in the league, and me and when we played the Wizards in Washington, Jordan and I did combine for 53 points in a game one time. He had 51 of them, but I was 1 of 1 from the field. I didn't even miss a shot. I mean, he missed like 12 shots. Who can't score 51 points and miss 12 shots when you're 38 years old? But I mean, anyhow, but his energy and his level of commitment to competing. I just hope everybody kind of gets an idea of why he's held in such high regard as the best player of all time watching this. And I really appreciate how his interviews is what's made the whole thing. You could have all this footage, and if his interviews are just like, kind of cookie cutter, generic stuff, the documentary isn't what it is. But the fact that you're getting the true Jordan personality, and he's saying things, and whether you agree with it or not, I mean, he is just not holding back, and that's what's really made it special, is just getting his insight and his reactions, and from things like him seeing his mom read that college letter, and just stuff, you're just seeing him in a lot that I don't think a lot of people have ever seen before.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty safe to say that he and Isaiah are not playing golf weekly.
No, I don't think that they're sharing any tee times anytime soon. I appreciate that, because that is something that is so old school basketball. I mean, because you don't have well, I think everybody feels. I don't think anybody can stand Draymond Green, even his own teammates. So that might be the biggest rivalry, is just Draymond versus the world. But other than that, you just don't have a lot of guys in the NBA right now that are going to hold this kind of level of animosity towards somebody for infinity. And so there's something pretty great about that. And part of me always wished that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson hated each other, and they didn't, and their rivalry was still great. So it can be done both ways. But it is fun to kind of see. I wish they would do another deep dive. I know they did a 30 for 30 on the Bad Boys. It was in like an hour long. I really could watch about a 3 or 4 hour documentary on the Bad Boys, because that group was crazy, and it was not fun basketball to watch, but it was entertaining nonetheless.
It certainly was a little WWE with the NBA. Kirk Haston, I cannot thank you enough, man. You are always so gracious with your time and with us, and always one of the best guests we could ever dream of having. But I hope everything is going well for your family, for your constituents, and everybody down there in Tennessee.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate y'all having me on.
You were the best. Kirk Haston, former Hoosier, current Tennessee legislator, joining us here for talking about everything under the sun, Kevin. What a great conversation that was.
Didn't even touch on, obviously that Vol Indiana Gator Bowl game in that ending, that onside kick, which I thought about bringing that up too. I'm sure
that's
that
true.
you got a lot of razzing about that.
Hey, we got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Kevin Brockway sitting in with us right now. Just finished up with Kirk Haston. Taylor Lehman will join us later. We're going to talk get some football caught up. But we got a lot more basketball to get caught up on too. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. And we're back right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, burgers sold here from a list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jake playing a little mood music there. Powered by Rivals. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com for complete coverage of the Hoosiers. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers is sitting in with us today. Todd's off. Lots going on, Kevin, but of course we talked about Justin Smith. The NCAA is looking into stuff. Just little bits here and there to give us something to talk about, which is great right now.
Yeah, I think image and likeness is going to be fascinating. Going forward to see how it's regulated. Again, the whole idea of allowing Hoosiers to sponsor players, which is on the table, I think could create, a really nice advantage for Indiana basketball recruiting.
Of course, Mark Cuban.
It could really open the floodgates, because there are a lot of people that are passionate about Indiana basketball. Now, how will it affect the football side? I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the flip side to it. is that Ohio State and Michigan and a lot of those, Penn State, a lot of those more, fervent schools are going to probably continue to get the better football players as they have been all along.
Yeah, it's just all kinds of scenarios going around, but it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. And Justin Smith, he's set to graduate too. So is this something that he could potentially put his name in the transfer portal as well? I mean, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but there's just all kinds of possibilities.
Yeah, there's some speculation out there with that, and I think it'd be interesting to see if he just decides, if he goes through, the transfer process, maybe a change of scenery would be better for him. But he could. I think that he could return to Indiana too, and try to really make it work. I think the one thing I remember talking to Archie Miller for the Blue Ribbon preview back in August last year. He talked about Justin being a very thoughtful guy. We know he's a very intelligent guy, very measured guy. So I think he's a guy that's going to just basically, through this process, weigh all his options and come to that decision. He obviously has gotten a great education at the Kelley School of Business, but there are a lot of great graduate programs there too. And I'm sure that he could continue to, foster and develop himself that way. If things in basketball don't work out, or if, you have a 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 year career overseas, life after basketball, with a Kelley School undergrad and grad degree, I think you're pretty well set in the business world.
I noticed John Calipari was talking yesterday that he opposes, and I really am weary of using the G League term, but he talked about the G League poaching these players, up-level players, which just cracks me up because, again, this is only going to be a select few players that get this deal, A. B, it's not for the G League. It is an elite deal that the NBA is going to put them in. But C, this is only going to affect teams like Kansas, Duke, and Kentucky. So that's why I think that he's opposed to it, because to me this is going to be a great equalizer. It's no different than dissolving the one and done rule is all this is. It's the same thing. And I think that once that happens, that rule, then this intermediary stuff, it'll pretty much go away. There may be a couple guys a year, but there just aren't that many guys that the NBA is going to look at putting $500,000 a year in their pocket to develop them.
Yeah, and I think NLI, too, is probably going to be a counter to that, too, where, if you do have boosters sponsor players, if you have businesses, look at the businesses in Kentucky, that are passionate about basketball, the businesses in Indiana that are passionate about basketball. There'll be plenty of money-making opportunities for these kids out of high school if and when NLI gets passed. So I think that it's going to create like I said, it's going to create an interesting system for, plus you get the benefit of a college education and room and board. So I think a lot of these players, certainly we're in a different era than we were in the 1980s and the 1990s. It's 2020. And who knows when sports are going to come back. That's the other issue, or when sports are going to come back with fans. But at least I think these athletes coming into college sports this decade, they're certainly going to have plenty of options. You can go to the G League and make money, and I think it's going to come the next couple of years where you can go to college and make money as well through sponsorships and booster sponsorships and business sponsorships too.
Absolutely. Kevin, I cannot thank you enough for joining us from Inside Papers. You got anything coming up that the folks need to know about?
Yeah, I had a story today actually on, I did a Pacers piece on Miles Turner, and, his dad was diagnosed with COVID. So he talked about that at length, just basically about some of, fortunately he recovered, but some of the emotions that he went through and what he's doing to kind of stay in shape, doing a lot of yoga to get prepared for coming back for the seasons. And we've got some, position breakdowns coming up. I had a story this week also on Kane Womack and Sheridan and their relationship football-wise, too, in terms of how they're trying to help each other through the pandemic. Two of the pretty much probably the younger coordinators in all Power 5 college football, with Kane being 33 and Nick being 31.
Sounds great. Make sure you follow him, CNHI Papers. Also, you can follow him on Twitter, Kevin Brockway. Sir, I appreciate you very much, man, as always.
All right, thank you.
Betcha. Kevin Brockway, NHI Paper, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to, of course, Golf Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Make sure you go to the Hoosier. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible selection. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Hey, it's Michael Lewis, former Indiana University player and current UCLA assistant basketball coach, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com, complete coverage there. Taylor Lehman from thehoosier.com joining us next here in a second, talking about lots of football offers going out still from Indiana. I've seen that in the last couple of days. A few more basketball offers as well. Alec Lasley will join us later in the week to talk about that. Coming up tomorrow, how about we had a special request for Kyle Hornsby. He'll be joining us tomorrow, so looking forward to that as well. But Taylor's going to join us here up next. We're going to talk about some of the offers Indiana's getting out there still in this time, which it's tough to maintain that level recruiting, but they're doing a good job of it. And Taylor's been staying on top of that. Taylor Lehman joining us from the Hoosier.com now. Brother, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you doing, Jim?
Can't complain. Enough to keep us busy, that's for sure. Is even though we're in this lockdown, we got a lot of things going on.
Yeah. This kind of exploded this morning, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, of course, you've done such a great job keeping everybody covered on the Indiana football side as well as the basketball. Justin Smith, of course, putting his name in the NBA draft, which a little surprising. Not really surprising. Just I guess maybe it was the timing of it, Taylor.
It did seem like it was a little late. You know, he did enter his name last year as well, I believe, and you know, if it was going to be a guaranteed move on his end, you would think that it would kind of be done earlier. But it doesn't come as much of a surprise, combined with the fact that he did it last year, but also just his skill set. You know, he has a great skill set, and I understand that he was probably one of the most frustrating, if not the most frustrating player to watch on the team last year, because it did seem like sometimes he would just disappear. But statistically speaking, he did show improvement. So it kind of makes sense, you know, if he took some of those notes and the feedback that he got from the NBA and their scouts last year and kind of applied them this year, and then wants to get more feedback, because I don't think he's gonna stay in the NBA draft process at all. I think he's probably going to come back, but you know, it can't hurt, I guess.
Well, of course, everyone always recommends they go and get the feedback and whatnot. But this year's a little different. There's some scuttlebutt about, you know, I think he's set to graduate. So he would, if that is true, he would be a graduate transfer if he so desired. So there's a little of that noise in the background as a possibility, because there's a great influx of talent coming in, although none of these guys that are coming in play his position.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I think Justin Smith is one of those guys that, you know, even though his production wasn't necessarily, even though he didn't necessarily see an increase in his field goal percentage, or his 3-point shot we didn't see the improvement on that we thought we might going into last year. But I think just from a chemistry communication standpoint on court, I think he's kind of an irreplaceable player, and I think that's why he had so many minutes last year. And from everything I've heard, the guys on the team like him, and you know, whether or not, you know, he does become a grad transfer, I'm not really sure, but I guess at this point you can't really rule it out, you know, and so it's that is an interesting point that you bring up about potentially, you know, maybe going to another school after he goes through the draft process. But I think there's just a lot left to be learned yet, and right now, just him entering his name doesn't really surprise me either.
On the football side of things, they continue right along. Offers going out from the Indiana staff. We've seen a couple heading out this week.
Yeah, they really hit Buford High School. I know Tommy Baeglass, he's a linebacker, and he was actually in town for the junior day in March, and he is really high on Indiana, and Indiana likes the talent that's coming out of Buford. But it's kind of interesting. I personally, you know, it kind of came as a surprise that they would offer 3 kids from the same school. Usually you would see that when they would go out on evaluations. So right now in the recruiting calendar, we are in the area where coaches would be on the road. They would be evaluating players at camps or at their high schools. They can't talk to them in person, but they can go evaluate them. And a lot of them would make visits to schools and watch them perform that way. And so when you see bunches of offers go to high schools, that's because coaches have gone, they've seen a number of guys play, and they like all of those guys. Well, it looks like, you know, even if Indiana can't go on the road and do this evaluation process, that maybe they're still taking the same efforts in studying film of specific guys. So maybe, you know, if they can't go watch these guys play, maybe they knew that they wanted to, so then they evaluated those guys in the same way that they would have evaluated them in person. But then they found out that, you know, they do like these guys' skill sets from what they've been able to evaluate on film. And so they extended the same bunches of offers they would have extended if they were on the road. But this time they're just not on the road. So that's a good sign to me. It looks like Indiana's kind of approaching this as if it's business as usual, but they're kind of doing it electronically. But yeah, that was my main takeaway, was that, they're just kind of trying to keep things as normal as possible as far as the recruiting realm goes.
And I think I've been pretty impressed with what Tom Allen and that staff have been able to do as far as increasing their recruiting footprint, Taylor. We've seen them here recently make inroads in Florida, obviously with Tom's previous contacts. But the South, they've just furthered that out. Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, where lots of skilled players are, but up north as well, Detroit. They've really been able to go into some players. And more often than not now, Taylor, we see when they're in a Final Four group or whatever, it's against the big time programs, where before generally it was usually always against a MAC team or something like that. Now these are virtually Power 5 teams. Most of these recruits are showing on the board.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. The first one that comes to mind was the Hampton offensive tackle graduate transfer, KJ Wilson. And in his top 5, he has USC. And so Indiana's battling USC for a grad transfer here. So yeah, no, that's very true. They just offered a kid from Oklahoma. You don't see a lot of that from Indiana. So, yeah, they are definitely expanding. And from everything that I've heard, they're going to be extremely aggressive with getting guys that are kind of above the standard top player in a draft class that Indiana typically brings in. They're going to battle. They're going to battle these teams. And this 2021 class is going to be really interesting to watch, man, because I think Indiana has a lot of in-state talent that they can, they're going all in on the in-state talent for sure. But if they can get some more earlier commitments, they're going to feel a lot more comfortable going after some of the top talent in the country. Obviously, it's not going to be like a lot of top 100 guys. I think those guys are still going to stick with like the Ohio States, Michigans, Clemson's, Alabamas. But I think you're definitely going to see an increase in the number of like top 200, top 300 recruits that Indiana's pursuing that normally you wouldn't necessarily see that from them. So I think this class is going to be the class that, obviously the 18-19 classes were great because they found, lower rated talent and then they developed them and now they're already on the field. But I think the 2021 class is when people are really going to have their eyes opened by the recruiting efforts by Indiana. And they're really putting their foot on the gas.
Any surprises coming up you're expecting? Which, of course, I know if we were expecting it wouldn't be a surprise, but
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's just some guys that I'm keeping an eye on. A lot more in-state guys. I know. Well, the graduate transfer I was just talking about from Hampton, and he's high on Indiana, and I'm not really. He doesn't know when he's going to be making his decision. He was hoping by the end of April, but the only thing that he's accomplished by the end of April was releasing his top schools list. So I think there's still a lot to be learned there. But also some other guys, Donovan McCulley, the 4-star quarterback, he included Indiana in his top 5. I think that's going to be an Indiana Purdue situation, but I know Iowa's really trying to ramp up stuff on him. Josh Sales, the tackle out of Brownsburg, he's going to be really good. I think he's probably the top tackle target for Indiana at this point. And then just Austin Booker is another one in-state. There's just a lot of in-state talent that, there aren't a lot of out-of-state schools that are able to come into the state and begin recruiting them at this point. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. They're running really close to that 1 month dead period during June and July, and that's when kids are making their commitments. You would hope that official visits would be taken by them, but it doesn't look like any official visits are going to be able to be taken at all. And if they are, they're going to have to be virtual. And at that point, it's just an unofficial visit. But I think a lot of kids are going to have to make decisions either during their senior seasons, which is really unusual, or they're going to have to make decisions based on intuition. And I think when you consider in-state kids, the intuition is to go to the place that just hired the New York Giants strength coach, and go to a place that has already been recruiting you before this dead period was put in place. So as far as surprises go, everything's a surprise. There's no general expectation for the class at this point when it comes to when commitments are going to be happening. So kids are just going to be there. I just have a feeling kids are going to wake up someday and they're like, you know what? I feel strongly about going to Indiana, and then they'll commit to Indiana because it's just really tough for out-of-state schools to get into the state.
It certainly is. Taylor, I cannot thank you enough for joining us and getting us updated. Make sure you follow Taylor on Twitter or at thehoosier.com. Complete coverage there of the Hoosiers. Brother, I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
You betcha. Thank you for joining us. Taylor Lehman from thehoosier.com joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle O'Leary. What a great day. Kirk Haston, man, oh man, he is always a blast to have on. He's one of our favorites to ever have on, but today was even better. It is Derby week. It would have been Derby week, so we had the famous Kirk Haston Derby call. I should have maybe held that for Friday, Jake, but oh well, he was on. It's happened to work out that way. So I'm like, oh well, hey, next Tuesday, don't forget, is the premiere of Worth the Wait, the documentary on Jerry Yeagley and the start of Indiana's men's soccer program. That's going to be on the Big Ten Network, I believe. Tuesday morning, both Todd and Jerry Yeagley will be here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle O'Leary. So looking forward to that. And, of course, tomorrow I talked about Kyle Hornsby's going to be with us tomorrow, and Todd should be back as well. So appreciate everybody joining us, man. Lots to get to today. I hope you go out and have a safe day. Stay in. I keep seeing these beaches and all that stuff, and I'm just shaking my head, man. I don't know what to do. I'm staying in. I'm staying home and just work as much as we can from here. But we appreciate everybody joining us as always. Thanks a lot to the text. I want to make sure I didn't miss any of those. I think I may have Tim sent one in there toward the end talking about NASCAR's got their largest broadcast coming in a long time as they go live May 17th at Darlington, maybe, and then May 24th at Charlotte. So there's that going. He asked if the incoming freshmen are going to be rusty starting out because of not being able to play all summer long at AAU circuit. I mean, it's all equal, so everybody's the same. So, but that's going to pretty much wrap it up. We'll join you again tomorrow. Looking forward to it for Jake and everybody that joined us, Kirk and Taylor and Kevin. Thanks a lot for him to join us on the program today. Until tomorrow, I will see you on the radio.